How's it going, guys? Crypto Bud here for today with an exciting episode on Litecoin. And given today's price action in the market, I think this is going to be a good one, talking about good entry points and looking at potential investment returns in this crazy market. So first of all, I want to talk about the price action for today. We have double-digit sell-offs. It's been pretty ugly. For those of you guys on the Twitter account, you probably saw my call there about trying to move to fiat currency. One of my strategies right now is to preserve cash and capital as much as I can while having to jeopardize the opportunity to jump into these positions that I think in the future are going to outperform. Now, the one thing I want to talk about, guys, is that there is a lot of volatility going on, which is excellent. So I'm going to be shifting my investment strategy from buy and hold to more of a trading, intermediate swing trading. So if you see me kind of bouncing off ideas and bouncing off trades, is because I think the market is offering us a great opportunity to take advantage of the swings. And we're talking about 10-20% intraday swings, which are huge. And if you actually are able to nail these 10-20% moves in a short period of time, I mean, you're going to do very well for yourself versus trying to hold this all the way going down. And I know on the Ethereum trade, I was talking about holding at different levels, and I'm still a long-term holder. But the whole point, the whole name of the game here is to, number one, is to preserve capital. Number two is to not waste opportunity. So I think that's a very important thing to do. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about here is going to be Litecoin. Okay, Litecoin is this is a follow-up video on Litecoin's analysis that I did a couple of weeks ago, and for those guys who follow that video, you did very well because I was right before the blow off that we had all the way up to 50 bucks. So the important thing here, guys, is you want to think about Litecoin is that it is going to be considered a really good investment in the long term, and I think Litecoin's now time to shine. So here are the reasons why I think Litecoin's going to do well, and I think you're going to hopefully listen to this because I think it's going to kind of give you that nice safety that Bitcoin and Ethereum right now don't. All right, so our time horizon for investment thesis is going to be 1.5 months. And this is not a day trade. This is not a one-time thing. It's going to be an ongoing accumulation that I'm going to have going. And for me personally, it's actually a really interesting one because there's a lot of new developments happening in the next coming weeks, specifically August 1st. So let's talk about the first couple of things, and I'll go into detail for each of the slides. So these are the 5 points you're going to be looking at. Specifically, we'll talk about Bitcoin's problems, specifically relating to SegWit and its scaling and its transaction fees. We're talking about the news pump cycle relating to Ethereum. There's going to be a lot of price consolidation on technical analysis. We'll talk about the Litecoin alternative or Litecoin 2.0 and also any news relating to the MIT project. So stay tuned. Okay, let's talk about the Bitcoin's problems first. Bitcoin's problems is really coming down to really this idea of dealing with the scaling problem and also dealing with the transaction problem. So SegWit, we're talking about the user activated fork, and basically everything that Bitcoin was really touting now early when it first started is now being kind of questioned. And let's just go ahead and go over the couple of key things that's happening with Bitcoin, and I think that's going to benefit Litecoin in the short term and also in the long term because I don't think Bitcoin is going to solve these overnight. So the first thing we have is, and you guys already kind of know this, but there's a couple of rehashes that I want you to kind of think about because that's going to set us up for the next type of analysis. So Bitcoin's blocks run at about 10 minutes. So when Charlie Lee was looking at Litecoin, he didn't want to make it into a carbon copy of Bitcoin because he knew that the problem was really about this idea of as you scale Bitcoin and as you make it larger and larger, these blocks and this time that you're going to start doing is going to create a problem, and that's what we're seeing right now. So Litecoin provided this alternative of doing it 4 times as fast, and 4 is the number because if you take a look at the float, I mean the amount of coins out there, Litecoin also wanted to quadruple the amount of coins out in the market. And so this idea of making Litecoin faster, making it more accessible in terms of the amount of coins, I think is very forward thinking on the part of Charlie and his development team when Litecoin first came out. The second thing is that he decided to move over to a script algorithm. And while Bitcoin's original algorithm was the SHA-256, what had happened with Litecoin was he didn't want it to become a concentrated mining pool, which is what happened with Bitcoin. And so the moment you go into these concentrated mining pools where everybody's trying to mine using this specific algorithm, and it's very CPU intensive, what ended up happening is that indirectly you ended up having these small concentrated mining pools, which eventually held back a lot of the development that you would find. So Litecoin kind of went over this, and actually fortunately a lot of the other coins decided to move over with script. And so then we have all these GPU mining, those type of things that kind of blew out from there. But the point really was not so much about the algorithm. I mean, I think the algorithm is part of it, but the implications of going to the script algorithm allowed Litecoin to become a little bit more distributed in that sense. So if I were to say Bitcoin started with a decentralized model, it's now becoming more centralized as the miners are beginning to consolidate a little bit, and they're beginning to really kind of run the show. And if they don't want to go out there and fork, and they don't want to do this and that, then they can always block those. So the issue of security is a huge issue. So number one is security for Bitcoin. The second thing is decentralization. Third one, it has to be fast. And the fourth one is that the transactions needed to be cheap. And so what you're seeing right now is Bitcoin is really not hitting a lot of these. Number one is transactions are still very expensive, because the larger the block is, the more you got to pay these miners to process these transactions because of the limited block size that you have. The second thing that you're having right here is that the speed of the transaction is obviously slowing, again, kind of going along that same principle of scaling. And the other thing that we're actually getting in trouble with, and I think it's going to be a huge problem in the future, is going to be this idea of decentralization, which I think Bitcoin is going to become more centralized just so they can become cheaper. And you can't quite have both. I think you can have them in the short term, both cheap and still secure. But that's the reason why we have central networks, is because as the organization gets larger and larger, you can basically cut down the cost a little bit. But because you have so many computers and so many nodes and whatnot, the transactions get a little bit more expensive. So Litecoin kind of dovetail around this idea, right? That you can kind of work around these problems. And these problems are not new, guys, by the way, but now we're beginning to see them in real time. And so when I was looking at Litecoin, I really was kind of pounding my hand on the table, on the table, because I felt that Litecoin was really one thing that did very well that Bitcoin is right now still stumbling upon. All right, moving along to Charlie's roadmap. So I was reading this over Charlie's blog, and you guys can have access to this, but I wanted to give you my brief take on this because this is huge. So Charlie, after leaving Coinbase, he decided to go over to work full-time as a developer for Litecoin. And one of the things I like about him is that he really thinks ahead in terms of why exactly he's doing what he's doing. And so the first thing we always have this criticism about Litecoin is, why is Litecoin pushing SegWit? And so one of the things with that is that Litecoin doesn't have a scaling problem. So if they started to say, well, we're going to go to segregated witness, what's the real reason for it? And then Charlie really explained this nicely here. He says that the reason why they do that is because there is a side benefit that people are overlooking in terms of SegWit. It has to do with the idea of transaction malleability. And what that really refers to, this idea, is that if you're exchanging Litecoin for Bitcoin, you can eliminate the use of an exchange, because if you put the Lightning Network on, you're able to bridge your currency from the Bitcoin network to the Litecoin, or vice versa. And basically what that would do is that would speed up the transaction, and you wouldn't have to go through a third party, making it truly decentralized. So it's kind of like saying, we're going to cut out the middle guy. No Coinbase, no Poloniex, none of that. And we're going to go directly into the blockchain. So if there's someone on the vendor side that wants to receive only Bitcoin, but you have Litecoin and you got Lightning Network in, and you're able to bridge those, you're going to be able to communicate with each other. And that's the beauty, I think, of Litecoin, is that ability to get those transactions. The second reason that people are actually killing Litecoin is because they say, well, wait a minute, if Bitcoin goes to segregated witness and it does a scalability issue, deals with that in August, then why are you going to use Litecoin? Well, here's where he kind of emphasizes that a little bit. He says that, and this is really interesting because, I was kind of thinking about it the other day as well, is that even if you have instantaneous transactions, Bitcoin's network is so huge at this point, and even with the 1 megabyte blocks, it still can only service 500 million users. So if you actually think about it, the more people use Bitcoin's network, the more likely that transactions are going to go higher unless you begin to expand the block size. The problem with that is that if you do that, it's going to be more expensive, and then you're going to have security issues, and then people may not even want to process these transactions, assuming that the fees are too low. So either you're going to raise the prices to compensate for the extra work, or you're going to have to cap and deal with the transaction time. So in the long run, what's going to happen is that even if you do go segregated witness on Bitcoin and you introduce Lightning networks, Bitcoin's capacity is already kind of limited without having to increase the transaction fees. Now you can definitely scale it up, but again, the problem is going to have to be those transactions. So people are going to eventually have to migrate to something cheaper, especially when dealing with microtransactions. If you want to buy a house or you want to buy a big car or something like that, I think using Bitcoin is safe. But let's say we're buying a cup of coffee, then I think that's going to be a little bit difficult to do. So that's another potential catalyst going forward, that if the whole Bitcoin thing doesn't work out and the scalability doesn't get fixed, you're going to see more of a mass adoption on Litecoin. Okay, the other one was, he also mentioned this, and this is another piece from his article, until SegWit and Lightning Coin confidential transactions, there was really no need for him to develop anything. So basically Litecoin was kind of left without any sort of development until recently. But the problem now that's happening is that we've got these deadlocks that are happening with SegWit and Bitcoin. And yeah, sure, they're going to get resolved, guys. I mean, it's not a question of whether Bitcoin's going to go to SegWit. The difference here is that we have a lot of competing ideas about how Bitcoin should go about it. And so what's going to happen is that Litecoin now has a great opportunity to come in during August 1st and begin to start kind of taking some of that market share away, and hopefully you will start using that to a little bit higher. So Litecoin is kind of at a juncture at this point. If Bitcoin doesn't resolve its problems, Litecoin can kind of take over. So again, very simple idea, but very powerful in terms of why is it that Litecoin can go forward. All right, now moving along to our third catalyst, and this is the other one that I'm kind of thinking about. So in the last videos, I was posting a lot about Ethereum. Ethereum, I got a lot of views, and I think that's great to know. My only concern here is that I think Ethereum is oversaturated, and I'm sure you guys already know this. So although I was preaching that you should buy Ethereum because it's still a good long-term investment, the problem here is that we're running out of buyers, new buyers. And so the more of these articles that pump out, so if you guys take a look at these articles, I mean, this is like just on CNBC alone. That's not including on Bloomberg or Wall Street Journal or any of the other ones. But basically everything's positive. They keep on touting this 5,000% return, 2,800%. Just keeps on getting more people in the market. And at some point, we're going to end up exhausting all the buyers. And when that happens, that's when you're going to end up with the sell-offs like we see today. So there really wasn't a reason for it fundamentally. The difference is that we're running out of buyers. And so now with the ICOs kind of tapering off a little bit and moving into the rest of the summer, what you're finding is people are kind of cashing in on the chips. So one thing I don't like about Ethereum is that it's overexposed and overhyped. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't buy Ethereum, and that's not to say that my previous calls on Ethereum are off now. But I feel like the attention is now needs to shift away to something else. Okay, the other one is this one definitely kind of hit home here a little bit. During the internet bubble, and I'm going to talk about that for a second, because when people are making money, and especially people who are making fast, easy money just by pressing a couple buttons, it's too easy. Okay, and there's no research involved, there's no analysis involved. It's just kind of like, let me buy something and then the thing will go up. This 18-year-old article that came out, I'm not sure if you guys ever saw this. This was about an 18-year-old kid who became a millionaire who said, you know what, I'm not going to go to school. Why should I do that? I'm just going to buy Bitcoin and I'm set for life. When they post these type of articles up, and now no offense to the kid or anything like that, is that now we're getting in trouble because you're pumping out these articles saying it's easy money. and now everybody rushes in, and then at that point there's no more buyers. So this is a kind of a red flag, I think, when you see articles like this. Or the other one is becoming day traders. It reminds me a lot of the dot-com boom, when people were saying, I'm going to quit my job and day trade full time, and now Bitcoin is going to be the new day trading piece. So these pumps that you see right here are usually short term, and after a while they kind of taper off. But again, it kind of shows you that we're getting to that point now where it's getting a little frothy, right? Okay, the next one, and so how does that benefit Litecoin? Well, here's the thing. Usually when you get these pumps, and it does happen on news networks, is that Litecoin, I have not seen a really good article on CNBC about Litecoin. Litecoin seems to be kind of very, very low key. It does show up on some of the main CoinDesk, Cointelegraph ones, but it's indication for me that Litecoin still needs exposure, and when it gets that exposure, I think it's going to take off. So right now, as you guys can see from this, it's all about Coinbase, CoinDesk, Coin News, Cointelegraph, but I'm not seeing a lot of CNBC mainstream media kind of pumping up. Okay, the other one I take a look at is the Google trend. So another piece of evidence I find in terms of exposure, in terms of entering into the psyche for everybody, is looking at Litecoin in the sense of, is it being talked about or is it being searched? And the answer is no. Okay, so if you guys take a look at this graph right here, Bitcoin takes the charge for this year at 100, followed by Ethereum, which I thought would be a lot higher, but it's really not. And rightfully so, because Ethereum is still a fairly new coin. And then Litecoin kind of is it's kind of popping its head up. But take a look at Litecoin. Litecoin was always been this kind of not there child type of coin, and then now it's kind of slowly peeking its head. So we have a little bit of room to run. I mean, we're not even clipping a quarter of this. We're not even there with Ethereum. So I hope that we can kind of get that marketing around so that Litecoin can kind of go up. All right, just to give you an idea for Google searches. So if you take a look at Bitcoin, it's always about Bitcoin price, mining Bitcoin, that type of thing. If you take a look at Ethereum, again, it's price, but Litecoin's price doesn't even show up. It's not even on the radar. People just go ahead and compare Litecoin to Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure when they search for Litecoin and Bitcoin, they're looking for just, what is that, you know? But until people start looking at price, then that's when I get worried, because at that point, it means that people are just speculating. Okay, moving along. So during the rally, we had a little bit of news, a little bit of hype, a little bit of pump about the activation for SegWit. We had Bitstamp coming in, the BitGo thing going on. So there's a lot of positive developments happening in Litecoin, and that's actually something really good because it can provide potential catalysts moving forward. Okay, the one for August 1st is going to be this. I think this may be big. I don't know exactly the details on this. All I know is that they're going to release something on the Lightning Network specifically for Litecoin from MIT. I've been scouring around Twitter, been scouring around the Reddit forums, can't find anything concrete yet. But if this is something big, like let's say allowing cryptocurrency to be traded between Bitcoin and Litecoin, this could be a huge thing. So again, potential catalyst moving forward is that MIT piece that you see right there. Okay, let's move over the charts real quick. And I want to spend some time looking at specifically the price action that's happened. So number one is we get that nice move that you saw back over here from $25 to almost $50 to about 48 and change. And that was a nice run up, almost a double return starting in June 15th all the way up to the 20th. So on a 5-day run, it almost doubled. It was at $25, and now we're kind of falling down the cliff here, so to speak. So here's the thing, the trend has been broken. Okay, so there is really, if you're looking at this as an uptrend, just don't even bother with it. This is going to be sell the rallies, buy the bottoms, sell the rallies, buy the bottoms. Now, in contrast to this, which was more of a buy and hold until that holds true, what you're seeing here is these sell-offs every single time we rally, and I don't think this is any different. Now, taking a look at the Fibonacci numbers. So Fibonacci numbers, for you guys who are not familiar with it, are basically identifying key resistance and key support zones that everybody looks at. And the more popular ones are going to be 0.382, 0.5, and 0.618 that everybody's looking at. So these are the numbers that you want to look for when things break. Now, because we're in a downtrend like you see right here, what's happened is that we need to hold support, and for you to figure out if we're going to change trajectories or trends, we need to take a look at how well it actually handles these. And so right now, because the market's selling off, we're basically in a downtrend. So during downtrends or during little mini bear markets, what you don't want to do is buy and hold. And the reason why is because if you buy and hold this, you're going to end up losing money, not on so much this fact that you're holding, but the fact that you have an opportunity to invest somewhere else. While here, you know, it's always keeps on increasing, so you're able to take profits and whatnot. Okay, so the name of the game here is to deal with these down markets and how you're going to go about doing that. And so the first level I want to look at here is going to be 39.36. So it looks like we're kind of tapping this 39 level here on low volume. Well, ideally what I want is huge volume, breaking 39.36, heading into the 40s and back to 48. Now, because of this price action, I predict Litecoin's going to go down even further later. The next level is going to be 36.63, which it was kind of dealing with it here. It kind of went a little bit under. That's okay. There's a little bit of room for error. And then the last one is 33.91, which is going to be an all-time low for the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to be very careful with this, but I think if we get some sort of bounce, Litecoin is definitely going to be one that I think is going to be served well because of the catalyst. The other thing I want to take a look at, guys, here is the MACD line on this one. It looks like it's crossing over. So this may be the start of a new trend, or it could be a nice counter rally that we can take advantage of. The other thing is the RSI levels are actually increasing. So we got two indicators here that indicating that we got a little bit of strength versus something here, or here, right, or here. So what you want to do is consider these possibilities that Litecoin can rally, counter trend, maybe not break its current trend, but maybe head a little higher and maybe make an attempt to $48.50. Now, given all the analysis that I gave you and everything, the reasons why, what do we do next? So here we go. So the call to action is this. Okay, Litecoin is definitely, in my book, an aggressive buy. Now, because of the nature of the market and because of the sell-offs and all of that, here are the three reasons why. So the call to action is Litecoin will complement Bitcoin, will not be seen as a competitor. I think in the future, Litecoin will, as the development team begins to carve out a philosophy for Litecoin, I think it's going to complement Bitcoin in many ways. Bitcoin will always be king. I mean, I think that's never going to change until something drastic happens. Second thing is Litecoin is on sale right now because of the market. It just got dragged down with the whole Ethereum ICO and everybody's panicking here. But buying Litecoin here is definitely a steal, considering that it has a limited supply of coins. And the second thing considering is it has been up there in the top 5 for a very long time, and it's one of the longest running coins next to Bitcoin. The third one is Litecoin development team will serve as a catalyst for months to come. So I do think that as the news comes out, people are going to start becoming more aware, and then they're going to start purchasing more of coins. My action is an aggressive buy at this point. So if you're thinking about it and you say Litecoin is going to be something good, right now it's a time to go bargain hunting and take a look. We got a first support at 37.84, which means that if it does blow 37.84 and just, let's say, keeps on going lower with the market, expect to go all the way down to 31.64. Now you can wait to get to that point, but it may or may not come. So who knows? Maybe you'll find support at 37, 36. And it'll just take off from there. So a couple of things you could do is you can put some price points of where you want to buy, and then from there go forward. Okay, so with that said, hopefully you enjoyed Litecoin. It's one of my really, really good favorite long-term holdings, along with obviously my other ones that I picked last week. But I think Litecoin has a lot of potential, and I think Charlie has got the right philosophy and right mindset. All right, guys, Crypto Bud out. Have a great day.